Welcome to the Wednesday meditation. I mentioned many times that when Jack and I met, we had a destiny that we did not know that was going to be ours. We were so different, came together, and then we marched in Chicago. Jack was going to write what took place there in a film. And we hitchhiked. He borrowed his father's car and it broke down on the highway. And so we hitchhiked with a Russian who had paraphernalia in the back of the car and was like, what are we doing? And we got there and we stayed with a couple that were lawyers, a husband and wife. And we both came from very low income people. And these lawyers had gone through the whole schooling to become lawyers, and they were helping people that didn't have any money. And that so impressed me. I thought, this is amazing, because when you got there, they signed you up to go to different people's places that had said they have so many beds, so many rooms, to use. And the whole experience was so amazing. The Chicago 7 had permits for everything, every place you were going to march. But we didn't know Chicago, and they only used bullhorns at that time. And so we ended up in an area that wasn't permitted. People were leading us through with bullhorns that were trying to get us to do something illegal, which we didn't understand. And there we were in front of a tank, and we were maced and part of the whole scene. But that whole experience changed our life because, first off, the Chicago 7 were unbelievable people, and the people there were unbelievable people, nuns, rabbis, regular people, students. It was phenomenal. That changed our lives. So we came back and we got into meditation and into the Edgar Cayce work. Somebody handed us a book about Edgar Cayce on the streets of New York City. Somebody else handed us a book about the Maharishi. And the Cayce material, the center that they had, they did their own meditation every Wednesday. And so that's what we went to. And what our destiny came at that time. We totally changed. We totally got onto a path. I was so show business, and Jack was so into the writing, and so that's why we lead meditations all the time that we can, because that's the work that needs to be done, is to get out of the way, go into that silent place. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I'll be doing a call and response. And if you would like a person's name called out and put onto the prayer list, please just put their name on a piece of paper and put it in the prayer box. And while Jack is talking, I will take the name out and put it on the list and call it out. So tonight we're just going to do a simple chant, and I'll sing the line, and you can sing as much as you want. You can sing with me, but I'll always have you repeat after what I'm doing. So, in the temple of silence, 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 in the temple of peace, 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 I will meet you. I your love, your love, your love, your love will bring me home, will bring me home, will bring me home, will bring me home, in the temple of stillness, 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 in the temple of love, 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 I will know you, I will know you, I will know you, I will know you. Your love, your love will bring me home, will bring me home, will bring me home, will bring me in the temple of silence, in the temple of silence, in the temple of peace, in the temple of peace, I will know you, I will know you, in love, in love.
Good evening, everyone. There's a story told about a Native American man whose little son was inquiring about the great battles their people had fought. And the father says to the son, "The great battle is being fought in my heart right now between two wolves. One wolf is mean. The other wolf is good and considerate." And the little boy asks, "Which one will win, Father?" "The one I feed, son. The one I feed will win." And this is an excellent illustration about our spiritual journey, which is really what everyone here in Unity is involved with. And so I will attempt to bring us back to the basic understanding that there is one ultimate and complete yoga. It is the yoga of forgiveness. If we understand and move with the yoga of forgiveness, ultimately we will become emissaries of divine light and living. We will become enlightened beings. We will have gained what it is the masters have been pointing to, speaking about, and writing about down through the ages. So we should give our attention to this yoga of forgiveness. We start, perhaps, with the idea that if someone offends me or attempts to do something unjust in relationship to me and my life, I may have to forgive that person. Well, I do. But immediately the thought is that by forgiving that person, I am demonstrating my spirituality. I'm demonstrating that I am more spiritual, or I'm wise enough to forgive this very real offense. And that's a fair beginning. And most of us in our lives, prior possibly to even getting involved in the spiritual journey on a serious level, we think in those terms regarding forgiveness. But if we continue in forgiveness, we come to understand that that whole concept of my superiority over someone who is offending me is a limited concept, a limited interpretation of forgiveness, because it doesn't heal the separation in my mind. It doesn't heal the separation in my consciousness, that separation that defines him or her, the offender, as different than me, the one who is offended. So that is a limited interpretation of forgiveness. And too often it simply serves the illusionary interpretation of life that we're born into and raised in. The interpretation that I'm a separate body-mind in a world of separate others, in a world of separate phenomena. And therefore, my personal self-interests must necessarily precede me in every action, in every condition, in every circumstance. which is not going to benefit us on the journey. You see, that whole concept is from an ego-centered perspective, which is our first understanding and interpretation of life and ourselves. We're born into it, we're raised in it, we're educated in it. But it's not going to allow us to find happiness, peace, healing. We're going to have to move beyond that. So, the masters speak about that in relationship to the ego-centered idea of life. This is Eckhart Tolle from his book, Stillness Speaks, page 34. Built into the very structure of the egoic self is a need to oppose, resist, and exclude to maintain the sense of separateness on which its continued survival demands. So there is me against the other, us against them. The ego needs to be in conflict with something or someone. Because the ego, you see, is forever defining itself as superior, defining the personality, the personal self. But in truth, each one of us, while we are different, we're only different in relationship to the beliefs each of us has collected from the beginning of our lives in the body. The collection of beliefs that we have create our own personal point of view. And it's not necessarily the point of view shared by others around me. So we live our lives quite often battling to maintain the illusion that I'm a separate, objective observer. I see things just the way they are. And that is the initial sin, the sin underlying all sins. It is the sin underlying mankind's inhumanity to himself. So we have to transcend that definition of life, that definition of self, that definition of the ego-centered idea of living. And we're in a difficult place because, as I said, not only the major educational systems of the world are based upon the illusion of separation, but even in the Lord's Prayer, when it says, forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors, that is an illusionary idea that there's some separate Father somewhere, our Father who is in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, holy is thy nature, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. But we're speaking to, forgive us our debts, Father, in heaven. If you don't get anything else out of this talk, and you don't get anything else out of unity, see if you can really grasp this truth. There is no separate judge, no separate Heavenly Father who's going to judge us based on our ability to do what is correct or right or honest or spiritual. Our debts are forgiven the very moment we forgive whatever debts we're holding against others. Because we are one with everything we look upon. So there's no referee. It is a matter of our own understanding, our own willingness to release the limited perception and projections we make as regards life in general. You see, the masters live in a completely different and very real world than those who are still struggling in the illusionary idea of life. And so we have to find our way toward them. And the whole concept involved in transformation is my own transformation. not my getting to a place where I'm going to make others see the light of my objective observations. It's a humbling idea to think I'm not a separate objective observer of things as they are. But that humility is a necessary ingredient. You see, there is no life of happiness, of peace, of healing, of truth, of wisdom. There isn't any until one turns away from the thinking of the world, which is based upon the human intellect that has ascended to the throne and is masquerading as God. The human intellect believes itself to be the most intelligent and brightest creation. There is no other, no beyond that. Until life has revealed to us that the human intellect is flawed and we cannot find our way to happiness and peace, truth, insight, love, joy, healing. We can't find our way to those things, not on any lasting level, until we turn within and we surrender somewhat the idea that I am capable of defining the right and wrong of life. It's not given to us. Judge not because you haven't got the equipment yet. It is required of us to ultimately become despairing of our abilities to fathom what life requires, that we can figure it out. Oh, our technologies will go on to be amazing, but they will not free us to be whole, happy, and at peace. That requires the spiritual practice, turning within to allow this more refined awareness, which is the good wolf, to speak. To feed the good wolf is to do our spiritual practice. And the beautiful thing about it is that we don't always have to be as vigilant as we do when we start the spiritual journey. When we start the journey, we have to be extremely vigilant about the thoughts we allow ourselves to contemplate and the actions we allow ourselves to take. We have to be vigilant to see the activity of this negative concept, this carping, ego-centered idea of specialness. We have to see it, and then we have to reject it. And that may often mean just being quiet. You may have to look past seeming injustices as you understand them to bring something extraordinary to circumstances and relationships. Can you imagine having the ability to bring peace to any type of condition, circumstance, or relationship? To bring peace because you are so filled with the truth of the presence of God in every person, in every place, in every condition, that you literally, your presence draws that peace out of them from their deeper self, from their core nature. These are things that the masters do. This is true healing. So in speaking to that, we have to be aware that the masters down through the ages understood this. Forgiveness takes us to a place of recognizing our interconnectedness with everything and everyone else. Everything and everyone else. So I'll share this with you from it's in the Gospel of Matthew, that we receive the insight from the Master who says you should not be called rabbi or master, for you all have one master. Don't call anyone else your father, for you all have one Father who is in heaven. For you are all brethren. It could have even been written, you are all brethren of the one light that gives you breath and life and the ability to rise and become the most feared thing in the outer directed world. Gives you the light to allow you to rise into it and become holy, which is to become extraordinary, which is to become a master, an emissary of divine consciousness. So we can begin to release the whole concept that we have been taught to believe in. And a lot of it has to do with New Age, mind over matter. Set your personal intentions. There's nothing wrong with setting your intentions for the goals that you want to achieve. But everything ultimately one day will have to come into a secondary position to the divine living core nature of us, which is the Christ within. Everything will have to be measured against what would that good wolf do? What does that good wolf want? What is truly right on the highest level of awareness? And so, in doing this, what happens is we start with forgiveness and we work through it and we practice it and we're vigilant not to entertain negative thoughts or negative actions. But what happens is we're beginning to surrender that which has forever blocked us from feeling wholeness, from feeling connected, from feeling beloved and sharing love, which is the illusion of my separateness and specialness and necessity for my personal self-interest to precede me in every relationship, in every condition, in every circumstance. That's the death of our happiness. And it will remain that way until we see it for what it is. So when we get to this place that we are all brethren and really begin to feel that truth, not just think it, that's the first part of it, but we will have to get to the place where we feel that truth. What really has happened to the outer directed world as we look upon it and see all the conflicts and madness and insanity that prevail in human experience, what we have lost is the ability to feel for one another. Oh yes, we can feel for ourselves, and all of it goes along with what goes against what I would like to have happen, my happiness, my health, my peace. But can you imagine how magnificent your life will be when this really powerful illusionary self, forever seeking specialness, has just relaxed and become a channel in any given moment for the divine will of God to be performed. In other words, wherever you are, whatever you're doing it because you're doing it for the love of getting it done. You're doing it because it's not necessarily self-rewarding in the limited sense that I'm going to gain something from this. My forgiveness will get me something back for this. My abilities to do the spiritual work and serve will get me something back, prestige, acknowledgement, all of that. Boy, can you imagine how magnificent you will feel and be when you no longer have all that chatter and that struggle for specialness, and you're simply present and available to be appropriate in the moment, whatever the moment is requiring. You're there. This is Eckhart Tolle's whole thing about being present in the moment. It takes courage to finally get there. But again, as I say, as we practice what we know, and we're vigilant for what we know, eventually we don't have to have all that vigilance. Because what we're doing is we're awakening our core being. We're awakening that true nature, or what is called Christ within, or Buddha nature. We're made in the image and likeness of that divine intelligence that holds the stars in their courses, that knows when a sparrow falls from a bough. That's the one in all, the all in one. And as we rise to join that interpretation of being and life, we rise to true joy and happiness. And the burden of struggling to try to make the world work according to our personal desires and demands and needs and wants is released. And we finally know what that Bible passage is. Seek first His kingdom, her kingdom, the kingdom of God. And all of these things that you have fought for will be provided. And that's what this whole thing about forgiveness, because in the end there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to forgive. In the end, an emissary of divine awareness looks past all the affronts of life, looks past all of the insanities, and actually, eventually doing that, looks and sees a completely different world. The real world, as the Course in Miracles refers to it. So, this is true from the Course in Miracles. It's in the Course in Miracles workbook, page 349. Can you imagine? You can just about take any page from A Course in Miracles. If you were to be, marooned on a desert island, and you had nothing else to discover what it means to be alive, you can almost take any page from A Course in Miracles and it would tell you. This is just one paragraph. This is the truth that the outer-directed, illusion-driven world is afraid of. There is a light in you the world cannot perceive, and with its eyes you will not see this light, for you are blinded by the world, yet you have eyes to see it. It is there for you to look upon. It was not placed in you to be kept hidden from your sight. This light is a reflection of the thought we practice now. To feel the love of God within you is to see the world anew, shining in innocence, alive with hope, and blessed with perfect charity and love. That's the whole ball game. That's having arrived in our destiny when we are there in this, believing this, living this, and watching how it has changed everything around us. I'll read this again. You can read it for yourself in the workbook, page 349. There is a light in you the world cannot perceive, and with its eyes you will not see this light, for you are blinded by the world. Yet you have eyes to see this truth, this light. It is there for you to look upon. It was not placed in you to be kept hidden from your sight. This light is a reflection of the thought we practice now. To feel the love of God within you is to see the world anew, shining in innocence, alive with hope, and blessed with perfect charity and love. Oh, how people would love to be there, and yet we get so stuck, so hung up. There's a reason why the ego-centered definition of life is referred to as the most subtle serpent in the entire field of living. It beguiles, it lies, and it steals peace from everyone who embraces it. I'm going to finish this talk on Sunday. I have other things that I wanted to share with you that might be of help. But there is that core being within us that comes more and more into our consciousness as we practice the presence of God. And it takes over. We don't have to be so vigilant. So eventually we find ourselves flowing in the majesty and the miracle of being alive as we were meant to be. We're going to practice our meditation now, which is one of the key spiritual practices. And we do this by giving ourselves permission to be okay, because to the degree that we can feel okay with ourselves, we give other people permission to be okay around us. And we'll listen to this beautiful crystal bowl as it shares its divine music. And beyond that, if we get to that place in silence and you don't have a particular meditation technique, you can use this mantra, this thought. Everything I look upon, everything I see, is only God waiting for me. Everything I look upon, everything I see, is only God waiting for me. As we go forth from this meditation, let us be open to pray for those whose names have been submitted to our prayer list. As Norma calls the name, just let this refined awareness of our oneness go to that name. You may simply send the thought, "You are whole. You are whole."
Bernadette Hallowhorn, Janie, Swava Brooks, James Hallowhorn, Tricia Vieth, Cindy Allen and family, Janice Hoffman, Steve Taylor, Kathy Danson, Tracy McIntyre and family, Kay Danskin, Grace and Joel, Jan DeVille, Daniel Rivard, Sandy Chamberlain, Sandy Spahn, Sandy Perko, Dell, all COVID patients and helpers, Eric Aguila, Joe and Kay Bellin, Jeannie, Annie Rains, Kai V, Steve Taylor, Ivan Schefter, the people of India, Mira Morrison, Peter Rose, Espinosa family, the air, water, earth, all life on planet Earth, the United States government. And you can call out a name at this time if you so desire.
S. Casey and family.
Nay. You see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the peoples whose names have been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let's take a few moments to bless this amazing community and world that we live in. Just recognize that this refined awareness of unconditional love and peace rising in the consciousness of everyone sharing this Boulder community with us. And this refined divine consciousness rising in the awareness of everyone sharing the state of Colorado with us. And so it continues to inspire, influence, and heal everyone sharing these United States of America with us. and moving beyond this nation to every nation in the world, inspiring people everywhere to recognize the essential truth of our interconnectedness and the necessity for compassion, justice, healing, and peace. And seeing this rising throughout the human experience and it affecting all of the life forms sharing this planet with us, all of the creatures and all of the vegetation, the oceans and rivers, all rising into the new pristine awareness of the new heaven and the new earth. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now in our COVID-19 fashion. You may have a little tag on your screen if you're watching this online where you can hit that and make a donation to Unity of Boulder. Or you can go to the website to see a number of different ways that you can tithe to this ministry. But for those of you that are here, we have a basket in the lobby if you want to make a physical donation. We also have the dip jars for you to dip your credit card. Or you as well can go to unityofboulder.com and use any of the other means for making a donation. It is all very appreciated, for it in fact supports the ministry that continues here 24/7. So let us bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder, and let's bless it with this affirmative prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give.
I am sustained by the love of God, by the love of God. I am sustained by the love of God, by the love of God. Wherever I go, whatever I do, whoever I think I am, wherever I go, whatever I do, whoever I think I am sustained by the love of God, by the love of God. I am sustained by the love of God, by the love of God. I am sustained by the love of God, by the love of God. I am sustained by the love of God, by the love of God.
Thank you for joining us this evening. You're in the most sterilized sanctuary on planet Earth. We use the UV lights before you get here, and we have to wait, as we use them. So there's a little period where we take them down, but it sterilizes the atmosphere just as we sterilize the pew backs, and we're still doing our social distancing. But those of you watching online, that you've become very comfortable at home, eating that banana split while you watch this service, you might want to...
Can I just say something too? I just want to say that if you have any kind of depression or you want to feel uplifted, go to the garden area and look at the majesty and the majesticness of life in that garden. And in the entrance before it, that Joel and Grace have done out there, and so many volunteers, if you believe in the little people, they're there. The animals are there, the deer are walking around, and then there's a maze of branches that swirls. You won't believe it. There's nothing like this in the whole state, anywhere in this country, this maze of branches that have been interweaved into this tunnel, and the children are experiencing this thing on Sunday. It's not a thing, it's a spiritual experience. The deer are actually sleeping in this wonderful manifestation. So it is not anything you've ever seen in your life. That garden, the entrance, everything about it. And if anybody wants to do a little weeding, that means just taking these beautiful wildflowers out that don't need to be there, just away from the area where the circles are, and then they're beautiful. Like, the dandelions are gorgeous. Welcome to do that.
We're going to call for a gathering, though, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday.
Right.
Have
But
people come
we're
out
going to
and
do
read.
it together. But if anybody really has that green thumb and would like to go there, you're welcome. And we've got all the tools that you need in the work area, in the garden. But nobody would be depressed if you just sit in these benches they've set up with the Buddha and different spiritual items around. You will find peace in that place. Anybody that's having problems and with their mental mind feeling bad, go and sit in these holy areas that are in the garden. It's magical. There's nothing like it in Boulder.
Okay, thank you for joining us. We'll have our usual Sunday services. I'll be at the 9 a.m. with Norma, and Santisha will be doing the 11 o'clock this coming Sunday. To everyone, good night.